Hello, hello. Let's see. Hello, everyone, for joining. My tripod, literally the one that I normally use, right when I went to start, the tripod snapped when I tried to adjust it. So that's the fun thing about going live. Hopefully, you all are doing well. Here in the United States, it's a holiday week, so a lot of people are short weeks. Hello. How are you?
Hey Drummond, how are you?
I'm doing well.
We're staying positive despite all the technical errors, right?
Yes. I literally was like, oh, my head's not in the frame. And I tilted it and it just snapped. And I was like, okay, here we go.
It's always Murphy's Law, isn't it?
I love it. But it's just a test to show that I can stay positive when things aren't going
Yeah,
perfect.
these are your lessons, right?
Uh, exactly. Well,
Yes.
how are you doing today other than my fiasco that I'm doing over here?
I'm feeling great. It's a beautiful fall day here in Los Angeles. Of course, everyone's excited about Thanksgiving. I know
Yes.
that has a lot of different feelings that it causes to bring up in people. So, yeah, let's just stay positive and love on everybody today and get them excited and ready for holidays with the family or not.
Yeah, exactly. I will let you introduce yourself, but I would love to dive into that conversation afterwards for sure.
Yeah. So, hi everyone. My name is Sarah Parlow, and I am actually a Jay Shetty certified life coach. I tend to focus on helping people get into alignment and authenticity with their highest values. I've also recently gotten certified as a hypnotist. I don't think that many people really appreciate the power that is backed up by real data that hypnosis can do for people who are struggling to break through in whatever area of life. Sometimes we're not aware of how our subconscious programming really stands in the way of us living our best lives. I'm also an actress and a writer, and happen to be a nurse anesthetist. I've been doing that for a while. That's my bread and butter until something really moves the needle for me. But yeah, I'm just definitely someone who is very much interested in the healing and the creative arts and just caring about people. This is some stuff we're dealing with in the 2020s. Uh, few
What?
things.
What are you talking about? I feel like we've had such amazing 2020s.
Maybe one day when we look back, it'll be 2020, but right now it feels like a lot. It feels like a bit much. So,
Yeah, I keep telling people like I know that it's a lot of darkness being thrown at us since I can think back a couple years even past 2020, like we elected Donald Trump in 2016, which I remember the gut-wrenching like feeling of him being elected, but 2020 definitely came around, but I think it taught a lot of us to become warriors where before maybe we were sitting on the sidelines not thinking that we had the strength or we had the power to make a difference. We kind of just let life happen.
yeah.
So although crappy times come, I think that there's something beautiful that can come out of it as well. And I loved when you typed in what you wanted to talk about today, like taking back your power and alignment, I think are such beautiful things
Mhm.
because I think so often we focus on the negative repercussions that we feel as LGBT people or other minority groups because there's a lot of pressure on us with laws being passed and everything else. But I honestly think we need to focus on the strength and power that comes with standing in your true identity and your authentic self, despite not being accepted widely for it. That's a powerful thing for people to realize that they have. And I always applaud people who stand strongly in their own identities, no matter who disagrees with them in public or in other spaces.
Thank you for saying that. And Drummond, I just want to point out, I don't know that the world really understands how much they need us in that respect,
Yeah,
because we are the ones showing A, that it's possible, and two, giving permission for
yeah,
people to really embody in this lifetime um, more beyond what is socially expected. And humans are these beautiful, variegated creatures, right? We don't all fit into these little easy boxes as much as certain religions or governments want us to. And so I am truly enamored with possibility models. And I didn't grow up with a lot back in the 80s and 90s and whatnot, but I think that they're so important because yeah, they show us potential. So it is interesting what you said too, that there is beauty that comes out of the conflict and the difficulty. You know, a lot of times we look at obstacles in a very negative sense, but in the zoomed out metaphysical spiritual sense, they're actually considered a gift
yeah,
because people generally do not feel compelled to grow or change unless they are experiencing pain. So pain is sort of the crucible, or obstacles or difficulty. It's the way through which growth is so much more possible and accelerated. And so to look back in history, someone like Joseph Campbell, he talked about the hero's journey a lot. And so we have to leave our sort of familiar space and go on to a journey sometimes and collect different treasures or tools or capabilities and grow this part of ourselves before we can return back home and be more integrated and more powerful. And so this is the beginning, I believe, of a very collective hero's journey that we're seeing right now in the world. I think everyone is going to be touched by it. So how can we in this space link arms, support each other, love each other? And it would be so much easier if we could do it together.
yeah. And of course, the Wicked movie just came out, and everyone's talking about it. And I feel like everyone's connecting to the message in such a deeper way because there is that storyline of you seeing the Green Witch, Alphaba, like find her power, find her strength. She chooses, I mean, she has no choice but to be herself. And I think that when I look back on my life, there are so many times where change could have happened, but I had the choice to make change happen or not. And in a lot of instances, because I wasn't super compelled or pulled to do it, I chose to remain in a situation that wasn't the most comfortable, but it wasn't unbearable. Mm-hmm. And I think about certain things in life that forced me to do things because I had no other choice. I had to grow. Life forced me off the train and I had to do it. But I think that the most powerful thing that a lot of us do is we make the choice to grow instead of having it forced upon us. I can think of times where I chose on my own, like I'm choosing to grow now. And in a society where there's certain circumstances or structures in place that don't require some people to grow, it says you can be just as you are and be accepted. But I think a lot of people in that space feel uncomfortable. They don't love it. It's not one size fits all, but we're taught that it does. But because I'm part of the LGBT community, that structure that was holding everyone in place wasn't for me. I was like, you're telling me who I am is wrong in this space. So I had to break free from those shackles and move on. And that was a choice that I made. And I think that there's a lot of people, even people who are straight, heterosexual, cisgender people, who don't feel right where they're at in life. And like you said before, we have a lot that we can teach people if they give us the opportunity to share our stories and they let their walls down and allow parts of our stories to touch them in a way to ignite the change that they need to start making in their own life.
Right. And so when you do make those choices to grow, how gratifying was it for you?
I think at first it was terrifying,
Yeah.
but looking back, I'm like, holy cow, I wish I had done this way sooner. Like, why did I wait this many years to make this change? Why did I wait this long to shed this life that didn't work for me? And now I'm like living in it, looking back as if that was a completely different life experience where I'm like, who was that person?
You set yourself free
Yeah.
and you live to tell the tale, and you are on the other side of this smokescreen that we call fear. And
Yeah.
so this is the lesson I want to really impart today, is just how everything that we want in life is just on the other side of this smokescreen, right? And so how do we get through that? How do we support each other along that journey? um, so yeah, I mean, I don't think most people are aware about how much the patriarchal binary oppresses everyone.
Yeah.
And it really does. It holds women down. It forces men to this very narrow range of behavior where the only emotion most men feel comfortable expressing publicly is anger. That's stripping away people of just their humanity on some level. And so I really want to get people to a place of just really loving themselves so much that they do feel empowered to go out into the world and really show up as themselves. And so my theory is that when people are in alignment and authenticity, their entire life just lights up, because you can weather the storm so much better if you are solid with yourself.
Yeah.
And I think right now we're just seeing a lot of conformity, and a lot of sort of obeying in advance of our shifting political minefield that we're in. And so I think a lot of this happened, Drummond, because we did give away our power. It's so easy to be complacent. It's so easy to just say, well, democracy will run and I don't have to participate. But as a rule, democracy only works when people participate in it and take an active role. There was this genius book that I read by Napoleon Dynamite, and it's got probably 80, 100 years old at this point. And he talked about outwitting the devil, and the devil sort of being that sort of temptation to stay static and just go with the flow and be in habit where you don't have to try too hard. But what happens is like only 2% of the population are what in the book he called non-drifters, the people who don't go along with the flow, who get through that smokescreen of fear, who take control of their dreams and their lives and what is possible when we do that. So anyways, I'm rambling, but I
No,
hope it makes sense.
no, I love it because we have to be aware that the system in place is extremely intricate. Like it knows the human nature and how we respond to things. It knows like when it comes to fear that it needs to have something here scaring us to walk through fear and also something on the other side to scare us back to where we were. Like there is so many different things in place that we don't understand like how controlled we are by the system. And even as an entrepreneur, like I realize that the system's not set up for me to succeed. Like they don't want tons of free thinkers making money on their own. They want you to be a part of the system. They want to be able to control your wages so that when decisions need to be made, they can control you by saying you can get more money, well, you'll get less money. There's so many different things in place that create that fear to hold people stagnant and just saying, you know what, this is too much. I'm putting my life in your hands. I trust that you will not destroy me. I don't think you'll do the best, but you won't destroy me. And when you kind of step through that other side and see it from the other side, it's scary to know how many people just accept sitting in that space. But even going back to Wicked, you see Galinda in that film. She's friends with Alphaba. She saw what was happening. She saw everything that Alphaba saw, and she still chose to stay in place in that structure because not everyone has that strength and courage to step through. But what you don't realize is the more people that do step through, the more inspiring it will be for the others to finally let go of that. Because once there's so much social proof, you can't deny that what you're currently doing is accepting subpar life that you don't have to accept.
I just got tingles hearing you say that. And really, what we're talking about is just a tipping point, right? When ideas start to gain enough traction to hit critical mass.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we were so close there. And I know we're in this sort of pendulum swing backwards. I'm hopeful that with the sort of advances that the LGBT community has made in recent years, that it should be impossible to go back. But you know, everything is cyclical, right? And I think in these times we can really learn from our elders and from our history. And what comes up for me a lot is this idea of resilience.
Mm-hmm.
And resilience is so based upon community connection. It's really hard to regulate your nervous system by yourself. But in community, and when we're connected through community, then there is collective resistance in that sense and collective liberation. And so, yeah, we'll just see kind of what happens with all the obstacles. I certainly understand Glinda's position. If you're benefiting even a little bit from the system, then why rock the boat?
Yeah.
But keep in mind that, you know, capitalism is always by nature, to some degree, exploitative. But
Yeah.
the difference we're seeing right now, and especially in the last 40 years since trickle down economics and since Citizens United decision, we're seeing this sort of predatory form of capitalism where there's just been this massive transfer of wealth from the middle class to the billionaire oligarch class. And so the message I think I want to get home is we can't take our foot off the pedal.
Yeah.
And, you know, rather than veering into politics too much, I see like the solution as to being personal empowerment and empowerment through collective and community. And so to really get clear about who you are, what your values are, and how you are living by those values, I think can be very transformative. And it might be one ingredient of what the world really needs right now.
Yeah. I mean, when you realize and recognize your own strengths and live in that space, it's really hard to be manipulated by other people. And I think that because I believe in what you said, I don't love diving into conversations about all the politics and the wars and everything that's going on because a lot of people are like, "Ooh, I hate these people because they're spreading hate." And I'm like, "You're also being hateful. Like you can't win this war by being hateful to the next person. It's a cycle of hate that just keeps going around." And I was like, how do we tackle this problem of hate? And I was like, empowering people, because I think of times when like I've said negative things about other people or I've hated someone else. A lot of times it was out of my own weakness or feeling like I didn't have power over myself, over a situation. Like every moment where that hatred existed in my mind could have been solved if I felt safe, if I felt loved. And that's an important thing, self love. Like, I didn't have it in those moments. I felt like I needed it from other people. And because they disagreed or did something different than showing up the way I thought they needed to, there's like this hatred boiling inside of me. And I was like, what if we just taught more people self love and make them realize the resources available to them if they develop a strong sense of self? Because I used to be the shyest person in the world, terrified of what other people thought of me.
Yeah.
But it was because I cared so much about my status based upon what they thought of me. When I dropped that, when I truly believed in myself, I can stand in front of a crowd of thousands of people with confidence because I trust in myself to exist as my authentic self on a stage in front of 1,000 people in a room full of my close friends that may have different opinions than me. Like, it's a really powerful space. And when someone kind of comes at you like, oh, you shouldn't do that, all your friends will leave. And I'm like, my real friends won't. Like,
Yeah.
it's like chopping.
And exactly. And at the end of the day, when you are standing in front of that crowd of people and giving that confidence, no one can take that away from you. That's really the take home message. It's just how powerful that is. And so, yeah, I love what you brought up about self love. I think that we are trained from a very early age to keep looking externally for that love to fill us up. I have been guilty of it for a long time, embarrassingly long time in my life. And, I uh, am really in love with this one book I want to share with people. It's called Love Yourself Like Your Life Depends Upon It. And it's just this author who went through a terrible breakup and really made it his goal to love himself like he had never loved himself before. And it boils down sometimes to just a very simple mantra and just saying it to yourself over and over again, which is, I love myself. We are not encouraged to speak kindly to ourselves. We are encouraged to be self critical. We look external to us, and there's all these messages that we are not enough. Advertising banks on it.
Yeah.
Advertising is always teaching you, you need this thing in order to be okay, in order to be loved. You need the relationship, you need, the right Gillette razor, you need all of the makeup, you need, all of the best clothes. And when we really get quiet with ourselves, so many problems right now are because people can't tolerate sitting in a quiet room by themselves. So just being in that space, right, of completing that circuit on your own every day, I love myself, and imagining it, not only just saying the words, but starting to feel the feeling. It starts to create new grooves in our brain because we have this wonderful thing called neuroplasticity where our minds might be wired a certain way because of trauma or, repetitive stress, but we can change it. But in order to access change, it has to be consistent over time. And that's how
Yeah.
the subconscious mind works. It needs to have input that is constant over time, especially with emotion and imagery. And then we can literally change our lives by changing our mind. Thoughts become feelings, become actions, become our destiny. So it all starts with us. And so I think in this environment, this is our lesson, right? I know, for instance, me being trans is a master class in self love because you're not going to get the validation from 99.9% of the world out there. This
Yeah.
is what taught me is like, you know what? No matter what I say or do, just by existing, like a lot of people are going to have a problem with me. How do I make peace with that? How do I start it right here, the revolution? And so that's just part of what I'm really passionate about for everyone. Everyone can benefit from more self love.
Yeah. And I love that you started this conversation talking about like hypnosis, and then you just mentioned the subconscious mind right now, because we don't realize like what percentage of our day is run on autopilot. Like our brain accepts so many realities that have been taught to us because there's just way too much things for it to focus on in a day. So we create a subconscious mindset that's just there for autopilot. It's just running on, okay, this is how life is, this is the choice. And we don't realize how many realities we accept in our life. And we see other people living differently, and we're like, something doesn't add up. It's because their parents are rich. It's because of the, like, we assign our reality to them because it doesn't fit our reality of understanding how life works. And instead of being open to, I want to learn how you work, I want to learn your reality because the life you're living is a lot happier looking than the one I'm currently in. Teach me this. And then it's, like you said, a repetitive habit you have to create to shift that subconscious mind so that your autopilot starts to see the world this way instead of this way that's not serving you anymore.
And the beauty is it's all a choice, right?
Yeah.
I totally get it how like how we were raised has deep grooves that it creates in us and our psyche. But with time and choice, we can really shift all of that and create the life that we want. I think it's really important to look at people who do have the life that we want and imagine ourselves going there and ask yourself, like, what qualities does this person have that
Yeah.
I need to acquire? And so many parts of life, it's really about skills acquisition. Do you have the tool for the job? And if not, it can be learned. It's all out there. We just really have to connect with people who know the pathway. And the reality, Drummond, is that a part of the path. I know a part of the path. All of us have utility. And that's the beauty, I think, of life coaching is that I might really specialize in helping someone across that bridge of fear in this area, and you might have it in a different area. And like, what if we just coached and supported each other? Like, wow, the American dream, for all as grandiose as it is, the issue that I have with it is that it is on such an individual level. It's me having
Yeah.
the house, me having the car, me having the whatever. But in other cultures, like Eastern cultures, such as Japan, there's an underlying thread of collective
Hmm.
mindset, which I know it's antithetical. The United States is always about being an individual, but like, what if we created sort of a yin yang, like balance around that? And like, yes, we can be strong and independent in ourselves, and yet we can also coexist. And America's not getting that right
Yeah.
now. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. I when you were saying that, something came to my mind, and I think a really easy one to kind of ask is, how comfortable are you asking for help? Like, we are trained to believe asking for help is weakness. We are trained that it's bad. We're trained that you should do it on your own. And you mentioned like Eastern cultures. I'm coaching someone who originally was from Palestine
Mm,
and now lives here in the United States. And one of the things that she shared with me was, when someone has a baby, like, they have all this time to just be a mom that's healing from having a baby, and the community just exists around you. So like, people are bringing you food, people are helping you, and the transition of coming to the United States made her very aware of how here in the US, it is very dog eat dog, like, you're on your own, you need to figure this out. I mean, you can even look at like the corporate job system of how long we give mothers to be with their child after childbirth compared to other countries. And you have to realize that all of this is a reality that we're choosing to live in because we're accepting that this is okay. It's a standard. We're not fighting against it in that way. So, this is why I said this structure is very complex. Like, it's not just one piece that we have to fix and it's all going to fall into place. There's a lot of pieces of this puzzle that are keeping us trapped in a system that's not working for you. And even when I made the leap to be an entrepreneur, I had to like pull out so much of the social structure and construct that was in my mind because I was building my business into exactly what I hated about my previous careers in the corporate field. And I'm like, why? Why do I have to wake up at 5 a.m. and start working at like 8 and work until 5 and then do, why can't I enjoy the whole thing? And even when I was enjoying my work, I beat myself up because I'm like, this isn't work. This isn't a real job because I couldn't accept that work could be so fun that I wake up every day smiling and go to sleep every day fulfilled. I couldn't accept that at first because I'd been trained to believe that work was hard. And it took me a while to stop saying when people are like, how was your day? Busy, hard, I worked hard. Like all these languages that I used to communicate had to be pulled out because I wasn't working hard. I was working in joy.
Yeah.
Um, but all of that is part of like the subconscious minds that's sitting there. So when we think about like money, like our belief system of you, for someone to be rich they're corrupt, that's a horrible way to exist around money because you're preventing yourself, if you think you're a good person, from accepting money. So like even as a coach starts their own business, think about the journey of asking for money for your services that you're providing. You're perfectly okay with the corrupt system of bare minimum and asking for people's riches to do something simple. But when you're changing a life for good and you're bringing them through their fears, you're like, oh, I don't know if I'm worthy enough to accept this. And then there's that fear of they're going to think I'm a bad person if I say it's this much. But all of that's that structure that's created to hold you and prevent you from that alignment, from that power that is there. It's yours. When you were born, it was a gift that you were given, and we are trained to believe that it doesn't belong to us, that we're not worthy of
Yeah.
it.
I love all that you're saying. And, the relationship a lot of us have with money is it's a very intricate one, right? Because it declares worth. Am I worthy of this? One particular thing that I have really had to work on is this idea of I have to work hard for my money. And that's just a belief. But if I keep believing that, then I'm going to work hard for my money. Not to say you should work hard in life, but does it have to be like gnashing of teeth and gut wrenching and all these things? Like ultimately, we have to see money as energy, and energy should flow,
Yeah.
right, from one direction to another. And so it's really powerful to get cognizant of the language and the beliefs that are interrupting the flow.
Yeah.
um, and I when I was in the Jay Shetty program, I worked with someone um, when I was getting my hours for life coaching, and she really struggled as an entrepreneur to feel okay with charging what she was worth. That's a deep seated thing. So again, I think it all gets back to self love.
Yeah, I mean it's deeply rooted, and I don't think many people are aware of it until you make it the focus of the conversation. And I think society has made that a conversation people avoid because they know if people sit on that too long, that they will start to say, hmm, why it like the amount of people that got angry when they said that they're going to raise minimum wage for people. I'm like, why are you mad that someone else is getting paid more for doing work? Like, why does that make you angry to think
Yeah.
that these people who are having to work four jobs to rent a home and pay utilities and nothing else, you're angry that they're being offered more pay? Like, there's so many little wired pieces, as well as when you're asking for money. I've heard a lot of coaches say, well, a lot of people just don't have money right now. That's a belief. Like, there are people out there who are in that space that are like, I need help and I'm willing to pay for it. But if your belief is that people just don't have money to pay for coaching, then you will not exist in a space where people do have that. And your conversation is scaring it all away. It's not attracting it. And I was very lucky in life because I grew up with my mom's side of the family not really having a lot of money. My dad's side of the family, I would say it was like very upper middle class. Like we weren't rich, but we were upper middle class. And the conversations are different in those spaces. Like these people over here are talking about how everything is expensive, everything's unaffordable, but you see them spending money on things over and over and over again that if they didn't spend it there, they would have money to spend on a vacation or other things. But it's like we don't have money, so the little joys, the $5 here, the $10 here, the $20 here, that adds up. Whereas over here, the conversations were like, oh, I'm thinking about doing this to make more money. Oh, I'm going to do this to raise money here. Like money is just something that comes, and there's nothing that they're having a conversation about where it's a lack. And existing in those two worlds, it was just mind blowing that it's just like a mindset thing. It wasn't that my mom's side of the family couldn't have said and done the things that they did, but the things that they were saying and doing didn't align with making more. And I was like,
They were
wow,
they were out of alignment, just to throw that in there.
yeah,
Not to interrupt you. But yeah, and the other thing I really want to point out is like, as someone who is an entrepreneur or a life coach, if you're selling yourself short in asking for things, then I think that affects the entire quality of the relationship with the client. Because Mahesh Maharishi, who was the yogi who came from India in the 1960s, he was like guru to the Beatles, and he brought transcendental meditation. He originally used to teach it, I think, for free, the process in India, but coming to America, he said that he charged because Americans, if they don't pay for it, they don't value something. And
yeah,
I think that's a really important psychological construct, is if people are not paying you something of value, then they're not going to take that coaching or hypnosis or transformational aspect as seriously. So money, in a sense, is a driver on both ends of the equation, right? It creates
yeah.
value.
Yeah, and I can say that I've tested that theory because I've had workshops and stuff where people paid, but I also let someone in or people in that didn't pay. And at the end of the workshop, the people who paid, they were sitting in the same space and they are like, I got so much from it. I like it changed my perspective. I'm now thinking differently. The people who didn't pay for it literally made statements of, oh, I think you could change this. I think they were sitting there being critical and not absorbing it as knowledge and wealth for themselves. And I was just like, it's crazy. And I've done it multiple times and watched it happen on repeat. And when people ask me, like, when I am coaching, they're like, can you just do one on one, pay one session, and I'll buy another session when I need it? I'm like, no, because you are literally mentally not investing in yourself when you say, I'll only pay for one session when I need it. When you create that mindset of, I paid for it, I need to get my money's worth, I need to, at the end of these many sessions, I expect to be in a new place. Your mindset is very different in that space. And when I realized that I was doing a disservice to people by giving it away for free because they just weren't extracting anything of value from the exact same thing that someone who paid for it said was like a life-changing experience for them.
Exactly. And we do live in a space right now where we have to create some content for free in order to show value to people. But I think at some point it is also important to, for the really impactful things, to create tiers in a way that people can buy into it, because then they will value the content. And, as someone who has taken your workshops, Drummond, you gave so much helpful information on so many things about how to start off as a coach, even some things as simple about how the Instagram algorithm worked. And I wasn't even really aware of some of like the numbers, how to position yourself for having an advantage. But yeah, I could see how a lot of people would feel threatened by their own inertia and lack of taking action. And so it is easier to sit back and criticize in those circumstances, because that's a way of leveling the playing field, right? Versus doing the actual work. So, yeah, um, money is a funny thing, but we have to live with it.
Yeah. And it's just a tool that people can use. And it's very interesting because one of the things that I talk to people about is like, how stuck are you in your current reality? And I was stuck in a reality when I lost my job, and the only places that I could think that I could work were spaces that I've already worked or people I knew worked.
Yeah.
But when you live in a city and you're surrounded by skyscrapers and you're like, there are people like 5 minutes down the road living in mansions. What are they doing? Like,
Yeah.
there's realities that you were not born into that you do not understand how they exist. And it's important for you to stretch yourself further, to network and grow yourself as a person, because you have no idea. Like, the reason why there's so much divide in things is because we exist in our own realities and we don't know that there's more to life than just a retail job for people, like people who have wealthy families that are just like, yeah, I can get you an internship at this phenomenal place where you've got this amazing opportunity to show them your value and be put into a position where you're making 200,000 a year, like right off the bat.
Yeah.
There's those opportunities exist in a lot of different places, but we shut ourselves off into our little levels or tiers in our life. And that's why I asked earlier, like, how willing are you to ask for help? Because so many of us, when we need help, we do it silently. We sit in a space in our reality and we're like, well, I could apply to the CVS right there because I see it. Um, but that's not going to be able to pay what I need to live where I live. So I can also work at the grocery store on weekends when I'm not at CVS, still not making what I need to make. But if we're open and say, hey, I'm looking for a job, I got these skill sets, I'm not exactly sure how they apply, and you put it out there and you've networked enough to where there are people that live in different tiers of understanding and realities, you'd be surprised what drops into your lap as an opportunity. But so many of us don't put it out enough for an opportunity that we could never imagine to fall into our lap and say, hey, here you go.
Yeah. And it boils down sometimes to imagination. And so, if I'm going to give people a call to action from our positive talk today, it's to start to get really clear about what you desire in life. And that's a hard thing for a lot of people. And I think sometimes there's even resistance of like, dare I dream that big?
Yeah.
So, if you are stuck there, I did a little reel a couple weeks ago. The cover photo is me in Sedona, and it's a little exercise people can do for like 30 days to really get clear about what motivates them, what drives them, and then to kind of condense that so that you know you know what you're naturally attracted to and what lights you up, and let that be a guidepost for what direction you want to take. Because once you get clear about what you want, then you can start to imagine possibilities, and then you start transforming thoughts into words, into actions, and that's how the magic begins.
Yeah. I I've been writing a book, and it's been something that has been a journey for me because I also struggle with it. But it's something that I really realized is a powerful tool that's being used for good or bad. But the book's whole preference is around, which side are you fighting for? Like, are you fighting for your lack, or are you fighting for your ability to grow to an infinite amount? Because a lot of times, even when you and I are having this conversation about expansion, I see people pop up in the comments and talk about limitations. It's like, here, I'm talking to you about expansion. This is an opportunity and a space for you to open your mind and grow. And some people will be like, no, that's not how it is. That's not how you do it. Even my mom, I gave her like the book, The Secret, because I was just like, wow, this is such a great way to shift your mind. And my mom's like, yeah, I'm sure. All you have to do is say, ooh, I want it, and it'll come. And I'm like, you've shut your mind off and you're defending your limitations. Like
Yeah.
you've stuck your heels in the mud and you're refusing and you're fighting for that. You're fighting for the life of limitations. Whereas I'm on the other side, hearing people talking about limitations, and I'm sticking my feet in the mud and I'm like, no, I am living in a life of infinite possibilities. I'm not going to be told, and like bringing Alphaba back into it, she talks about unlimited, and it's like, yeah, you have to choose what you fight for. And there's so many people who have not gotten to that point, and I understand it's hard to break that mindset, but I just want people to understand, like, when I'm arguing with you, I'm arguing for your infinite possibilities. And if you're going to argue with me on your limitations, we will forever be in that argument because I will never step to your side and agree with you that limitations exist for you. You literally have beautiful examples all through the world who are like, I have no limbs, and they're still doing something with their life that no one thought was possible because they said, I will not be limited. I will have to do it differently than those that have limbs, but I will not be limited by this affliction that I am suffering from. I'm not going to allow this to be something that holds me into this box I don't want to be in anymore. And when I started realizing that, because even I, when life gets hard, being an entrepreneur is not easy. I will sit there and my partner Kevin will try to show me something that's a possibility. And I will argue for my limitations. And I'm like, uh oh, I flip sides. I need to get back on there. And instead of arguing with him, embrace the possibilities he's trying to help me see and keep going. And you might run into, well, I don't have a degree, so I can't do it this way. But there may be another way that you can embrace and do it. Um, don't fight for your limitations. Like that's the worst thing you can do because
You fight for your,
they'll let you keep it.
yeah, you fight for your limitations and surely they are yours. That's how the old saying goes, right?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I love what you said about like, even you struggle with it sometimes. We are all teachers and students simultaneously in all areas of life. And so it is behooves all of us to coach each other at various times and lift each other up. And it is scary. It's scary to step outside of what we construe to be true. Um, but, yeah, it's just for anyone who has met the challenge. I mean, again, I love what you brought up about someone not having limbs. It's through adversity that the human spirit can truly thrive. And what I have found is the days in my life when I feel most alive and most proud of myself are the ones when I really took the risk, when I really challenged myself. Even if I flubbed my way through it, the value of just showing up and knowing that even if I quote fail, it's never a failure. It's always meeting an opportunity, and you don't know where it could lead to. So, hope everybody out there challenges themselves a little bit today, and that maybe tomorrow over Thanksgiving dinner, they just find ways to thrive and sail through whatever situation might come up, and just showing up with love for themselves and for everyone else.
Yeah. And I know that we started the conversation with Thanksgiving, and we know, especially being part of the LGBT community, sometimes that is a tough time of year. And when it comes to those types of things, the best way to exist in those spaces, if you choose to go home in spaces where your identity is not accepted, is don't bring it up. Like, don't make it an argument. Don't make it something where you have to kind of stand and protect yourself in that space. I've learned that for me, it was just like, we're not having that conversation in this space. Like, I am not here to have that conversation with you all today. And if they're insistent on bringing that conversation and energy into that space, that's when I'm just like, I'm going to have to leave. It was nice seeing you all, but I'm protecting my energy in space, because it used to be where the dread of it coming up, like the week before, was just a draining week leading up to that day that I knew I was going to be around them. The moment of existing in it, it drained me even more, to where it wasn't until like March next year that I felt like myself again, because I allowed the holidays to be so draining. But when I created boundaries for myself, and I can't force other people to do anything, but I can say I won't be showing up for Thanksgiving next year.
Yeah.
Um, and say I would rather sit and read a good book and laugh and smile and know that tomorrow is going to be a good day because I took care of myself on Thanksgiving by not putting myself someplace that destroyed me as a person. And that's an okay way to go. Um, you have to navigate through the shame and guilt that is placed on you for not showing up to spaces, but also like, don't allow people to throw that at you, because you are important, and if people can't respect you in spaces, you don't have to be there, for them to tear you down.
Yeah, I mean, we are the only ones in charge of our peace of mind. Nobody else can control that. So create all the boundaries that you need to and choose your battles wisely. And, at the end of the day, someone can pop off, but you still get to go home and be yourself. Usually, the people who are popping off and criticizing are the ones who are fighting their own inner battle.
Yeah.
And maybe they're jealous or maybe they don't feel as empowered.
Yeah.
It's so funny how every accusation or criticism is very telling.
Yeah.
So
you you have to look at happy people and realize that happy people don't throw things out to hurt others. So if you are in a situation where other people are doing that, just know that they're probably living internally in a world of extreme pain, and it's a space that they need to heal, and that's a step that they have to take in their life. It's not your responsibility. There have been many times where I'm just, someone is going off on me, and I'm just like, I wish you healing, but I can't exist in the space with you. Um, Good luck on your journey. It's just like, I will love you from afar and send you as much positive energy as I can, but I will not stand in your presence where shrapnel is flying everywhere and I'm being hurt.
yeah.
It's just, it's okay to say, I'm going to walk away from this. And if you're in a situation where you're too young to exit the space, just know that there are other people who are there to support you and love you after you've been through something like that. There are so many different avenues you can take, but it's just important to know, like, you're not alone. The people, if you look at them more as victims of their own inner world that's destroying them internally, it's a little easier to hear what they're saying and not take it so personally. Know that the hate that they're spewing out their mouth that sounds like it's coming towards you is really just them talking to themselves in the mirror that way.
It's so deeply, profoundly psychological on so many levels. And I think this understanding has allowed me to have more empathy in the world. But yes, by no means should you have to put up with abuse. Um, Remove yourself as soon as you can. And then just a reminder, and I think Thanksgiving really exemplifies this so well. We all have our family of origin, and then we have chosen family. And thank God for chosen family, because those are the people that love us, not because they have to, but because they want to. Um, and certainly those are the people I'm gravitating more and more these days, are the ones who choose to be here. And find your people. They're out there.
Yeah. And I've seen someone commenting a lot,
Yeah.
um, I don't know them personally, but I think when it comes to the life that we're living in, you can stand for yourself, but just know that we can't change other people. We only have the power to change ourselves. We can't change the world we live in. Like, it would be a beautiful world if money didn't have to be exchanged for value and goods, that everyone was given enough and what they needed to survive. But we live in a reality in a world where that is how we survive. You pay for rent, or you own your home, or you pay for groceries. Um, Wishing and hoping that that wasn't the case, um, I think is energy that you can spend on bringing more to you. Use the law of attraction and believe in infinite wealth, whether it's love wealth, whether it's money wealth, like networking wealth. Like, don't spend energy wishing that the world wasn't the way it is. Accept it the way it is, but then live the life that you want in it. If you want to create a space where people can exist without money being the form of exchange for goods and services, you can create that, but you have to play by the rules. If we're in the game of Monopoly, you can't say, I prefer the rules of Candyland and think you're going to win the game. You're not going to change the game or the board by playing by the rules of a different game. Um, you have to play by the rules, and then when you have the authority to make change and hold space for others, do it. Like, that's why I say I love creating diverse leadership, because the only way we're going to create safe spaces and the change we hope to see in this world is by getting people in those positions to make the change. We need diverse leadership. We need people who understand that our current structure, the current rules that we have to play by, aren't working. And for us to make the change, it's not sitting in denial and saying, I hate this. It's, how can I play this game to get to a position where I can change it? And for a lot of us, political offices are available. Your your committees everywhere. There's positions of power that you should move towards. I worked in a company that I got to a point where I kicked the doors open for minority people in all shapes and forms, because when I got to my position of power, all I saw was rich white old men.
Yep.
So I was like, this has to change. So I got to a point and I kicked the door open, and every position that opened, I made sure we interviewed the most diverse group of people, and I made that change. That's how you play the game. Like, we can't live in a world where it's like, I don't want it money to be the thing that we need. Unfortunately, that's the universe we live in right now.
For sure. I applaud the fact that you utilized your relative, privilege and that perspective to really bring other people on board. And I think, yeah, that's what we're all going to need to do with the whole attack on DEI right now. We can actually make choices around, like, look, research really proves it, that having diverse workforce actually benefits companies. So, the data is out there, and we can all like pool resources from everyone's lived experiences and make everything better. So, great point.
Yeah. Climb the ladder and then make the change, because that's how it happens, and it's in every avenue, within the companies you work for, within the communities that you serve or exist in. Like, there are positions of leadership that you can climb into and take the reins and make the change that you want to see. All I say is, like, utilize your privileges. We all have privileges. Sometimes it's really easy to focus on the area where we lack the privilege that others may have, but we all have a privilege, and we should utilize it to bring awareness to those people that do not have it. Something that falls in your lap does not fall so easily in others. So make sure that you're passing it around to those that need it, and realize privilege is blinding. A lot of times you're blind to the things that life has just given you because of your privilege that others have to fight so hard for. So when people are saying like it is not easy, the things you have I do not have, listen, because it is so easy to live in your reality and say, "Oh, you're not doing the right things. You if you did this, like there are so many conversations that could be transitioned into a better tomorrow if you accept the realities people are sharing with you and pour your privilege down to help the people who don't have it. I think that it's really important for people to understand that. And like you said, find your own power. It's not just social media people, it's not just coaches, it's not just celebrities, politicians that have the ability to make a difference. Every single person on this earth, down to a newborn child, has the ability to shift the world to a better place. So don't forget your power and stand in your alignment. Like, become the best you because the world needs you in that position of power because you were put here to exist exactly how you are. And when you're not in that, you're doing you and the world a disservice by not existing in that space.
The world has far more to gain, not by you conforming to be like everyone else, but by you being more you. That is the one gift that all of us can bring, is to be more of ourselves and show up with that. That's power. That's real personal power.
Yeah. Well, it was an absolute honor to have you on here again. I know that we did our election day conversation, and I absolutely loved that. And I knew that we could jump on and have a conversation that could last for hours. So I just want to say thank you for coming on here. And if there's ever anything I can do, please let me know. And if there's anything you'd like to end on, I'll give you the time and space.
Well, anyone, you can follow me at the Sarah Parlow, or also my business profile, which is Aligned with Sarah, where I'm just starting to get more coaching content up. And I'm going to be in an article coming out soon for Voyage LA to talk a little bit more about my coaching and hypnosis business. And in the meantime, just really thank you for the time and space, Drummond. I love that you have this platform. I love that you do these talks. I'm so grateful to be in that circle. And yeah, everyone, just happy Thanksgiving, and love yourself and love one another.
Great message to end on. Thank you so much, and I will talk to you soon.
Talk soon.
Bye.